I mean, you could think of it as a week-long campus-wide escape room with the difficulty dialed all the way up. My name is Ty. I'm assistant professor teaching stream with the CEMC in the maths faculty and an adjunct professor in pure mathematics. My connection to Key Clues, I run the show, which is a lot of fun and a lot of time. Key Clues is what you would call a puzzle hunt. I've heard it described as a marathon for nerds. It's just a competition to see if you can solve as many puzzles as possible in a short amount of time, but with the idea that the puzzles don't have really much direction or any rules about it. Key Clues challenge that we run, at least the one we ran this year, it was 3 puzzles released a day for 5 days. And then at the end of it, there's a meta puzzle, which you need every single, well, ideally all the answers to the previous 15 puzzles to solve. And the first team to solve the meta puzzle, it leads you somewhere on campus, and the first team to get to that spot wins. I'm going to talk about Pirate Treasure Map, which was one of the non-meta puzzles that I had a part in writing. The idea for this came from another enigmatologist, Sarah Chan. She put a post on our Discord saying, I have an idea. If anyone wants to help me write it, please do. I went over and talked to her and she's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. It's going to be some kind of matching puzzle where you're going to have to cut and paste something and put it together, and a picture will arise and we'll see what happens. So that was the vague idea, and we talked about it for a while and we came up with Pirate Treasure Map. So you're presented with 2 pieces of paper when you open the puzzle. The first paper it's just a series of clues, and there's 20 of them, they're numbered. You've also got 20 shapes, and then you also go to the second page, and there's, sure enough, a pirate treasure map, or what looks like a pirate treasure map. You're staring at it and you go, okay, we got to figure out what to do, right? So the goal of a puzzle like this is you have to get to a 1-word or a short phrase answer somehow. We don't know how. So you have to start trying to get information out of this. So you look at the pirate treasure map. After a little bit of counting, you see that there are actually 20 landmarks noted on this map, and 20 clues and 20 triangles. Okay, so something like this is unlikely to be a coincidence. So you say, okay, or at least the first thing you might try, which turns out to work. You can join up every clue with a shape with a landmark. So the first thing we might try to do is pair up the clues with the landmarks. So the clues are numbered, the shapes are numbered, so there's an obvious way to put those together, but there's not really an obvious way to get the landmark connected. If we start reading the clues, they don't seem to be terribly precise, which makes things difficult. For example, first one, most valuable. I don't know how long the answer is. I don't really have anything to go off. Most valuable could be like precious, most loved. This is a deliberately ambiguous clue. Going through these, some of these are a little less ambiguous. So one of them, which I think is what teams probably use to get started, is clue number 6, which is the subject of Snape. If you're familiar with Harry Potter, it's probably either potions or defense against the dark arts. Now we want to find some way of connecting potions or defense against the dark arts with one of these. You start scanning through these and there's nothing that's a potion or anything that could be defense against the dark arts related or anything like that, but there is a landmark labeled poison, and poison is potions with the T removed. So this is maybe the first thing you might notice. That could be a coincidence. You know, when you see something like this in a puzzle, you try to follow it as far as it goes. So there's an idea here is that you take an answer, you remove a letter, you take an anagram, and then it gives you one of these landmarks here. So let's try that. So potions, which takes you to poison. And let's see if we can do something else like that. What's another example of this? Font family. The only font family I'm aware of is a serif. You know, I'm sure that some of you typographical nerds would know a few more things than that. But serif, if you remove an S, gives you fire, which is on the map. You can continue in this way. Now that we have a couple which work like this, we can sort of go back and forth between them. So the mechanics of this puzzle is you have to fill in all the clues. So in order, they end up being dearest, which you associate with desert, which gives you a. Flu symptom happens to be, you can notice the hills there and it's chills, which gives you a C. Embarrassed is ashamed, which looks like mad C with an H removed. Monte Carlo, for example, is a casino. And you continue in this manner. The letters that come out in order of the clues here. So A, C, H, A, O, T, I, C, G, R, O, U, P, O, F, T, H, E, S, E. If you follow this through, the letters that get extracted at each step, they give you a little instruction as to what the next step might be. So if I collect all of that and I put some spaces in to make things easier to read, I get the message, a chaotic group of these. That's not the answer. You get something out like this and you think, okay, well, this is sort of instructing me for something else that's going to happen. So I noticed that I haven't really used the triangles or the shapes yet. But each shape has a number, which corresponds to a clue. Each clue now corresponds to a landmark. So what I can try to do is I can take each shape, I can cut it out and put it on the corresponding landmark. So for example, 1, this big triangle here, numbered 1, connects to the landmark desert, which is here. So pull out your trusty scissors and you start cutting. This is a very frustrating part of any kind of puzzle, the arts and crafts part. I know that the triangle numbered 1 has to go on desert. And I also noticed that in each of these shapes, there's a little dot. It's a little white dot, which is there. And on each landmark, there's a cross with a little dot on it. There's not many things you can do here besides match up the dot with the dot. So I'm going to put it on there. Now, I don't know how it's going to go. It might be just in the orientation that it was given to me in the puzzle, but that's probably unlikely because all of these shapes, they're all sort of laid flat on the puzzle, which should indicate maybe I need to rotate them or something like this. Nonetheless, you try to do this. Let me get one that's nearby and I'll show you how the mechanism works. Sea monster. Monasteries, number 7. Okay. So I have number 1 attached. Some teams I saw doing this with like a push pin on a corkboard or something like this. 1 goes on desert, 7 goes on sea monster. What we notice is that if we're lucky enough with the rotation, and in fact we don't actually have to be lucky because it's built this way, is that we can keep the dots where they should be. And if you rotate it in the right way, you can actually match up these shapes perfectly with the edges completely lined up to each other. And you continue like this, playing around with each shape, sort of rotating it, trying to get it all to fit nicely. And there is a way to do this, surprisingly. So you place all the pieces down, maybe ambiguously, it's some kind of bird, but thematically with the puzzle being about pirates and things like this, you recognize it's a parrot. So the answer might be parrot. But if the answer was parrot, we haven't used all the information yet because we had this sentence come out, a chaotic group of these. And now we have to do a little bit of research. Let's look at what groups of parrots are called. So searching through the first few sort of results on Google, you see flock as an answer, you see company as an answer. So if you try those into the answer checker, you will get incorrect results. At this point, you're probably pulling out your hair as a solver, but you scroll down a little bit and you see that another common collective noun for parrots is a pandemonium. Sure enough, that's the answer. All this work, just a short word, very satisfying.